Oh, hang on. Jeez. Volume here. Already high volume. Why it didn't come out. Okay, go ahead, John.
I don't have anything.
Oh.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. We have a great show for you today. Everybody is going to be here. David is on 21st Street right now. Just talk to him. Okay. Gathering. Is there anything more powerful than a group of people gathering together, making eye contact? It is. Do you know you have something in common with the caveman? It's in our DNA. We are a herd type animal. Even though we have language, even though we have cell phones. It's not the cell phone's fault that we're having problems. It's because we don't put it away and look at people and talk to people. That's where our problem is. Because you get endorphins from standing and talking to a person and making contact eye to eye. And so I welcome you to this gathering today, and I hope by the end, your body will feel refreshed and ready to go. Our first storyteller today, as you can read in your program, by the way, that beautiful program was produced by Susan LaCour. He needs no introduction to the people who are here and who know him. But there may be a few of you who haven't heard of Ed. To give you just a little glimpse into his personality, I would like to tell you that one of his titles that he loves to be called by, Eddie Spaghetti. Does that give you a clue? Please welcome Ed Lewis.
Thank you, Joyce, for that nice introduction. So I'm going to tell you a story that I wrote about 10 years ago. I told it one time, and then I just put it away, and it's been a difficult one for me to process and tell. So here we go. Back in the 1950s in Seattle, Washington, I was carefully taught how to hate other people by my father. I learned by the age of 10 that Indians were drunks, blacks were criminals, Mexicans were lazy, and you had to be careful and watch out for the Japs, the Japanese who attacked us in World War II. My father would come home from work and he commandeered the conversation because he was the man of the house. My mother and I would listen to him, and he would talk about the events that happened at his work. He was the executive for United States, the Cyclone Fence Division of United States Steel. One day he came home and he said, "You won't believe what happened to me. I had to go into the N-word land and put a fence around the chemical drums at the Larson Laundry because all of the N-word kids from the poor community come down and they sniff the glue to get high. But you don't have to worry, son. You're safe here with our people in our segregated white community." in Seattle. I learned in elementary school that my people, the white people, had civilized the United States. We had freed the slaves, and we had won World War II and saved the world. I learned nothing about lynchings, police brutality, the horrible conditions on Native American reservations. That was never talked about in our school history lessons. Those ideas that I had formed, I never had contact with anyone but my people. When I got into high school, I formed a rock and roll band. And we got well known, and we played at dances all over the Seattle area. And with other groups, we had battles of the bands, and we went into different communities, different ethnic groups. And I met all these really great people that weren't part of my kind. And I went, what? This just doesn't make sense, what I've been taught. I mean, I've made so many fantastic relationships. So I decided to challenge my father. I went home one night after a conversation as he was going on. I said, hey, Dad, just a hypothetical question for you. I know that you have a sales job coming up. So here's a little scenario. You have this black man coming in. He's got a master's degree and 5 years experience. He's applied for the job. And you have the white guy that's come in. He's got a bachelor's degree. He's got maybe a year experience. And they interview, and you like both of them in the interviews. They do well. Who would you hire? And he said, the white guy. And I said, what's the deal, Dad? Are you racist? No, I'm not racist. I'm just practical, because they just aren't meant to be leaders. Well, I went away to college with my 1.2 grade point average from high school, because my parents had moved me into a new community, and that's a whole nother story. So they were excited that I was going to go to college. I took the ferry from Seattle to Bremerton, which is an hour ferry ride, and I went to the community college there because I didn't have a high enough grade point to get anywhere else. And we would stay there for the week. A couple buddies and I, we rented a house, and then we'd come home on the weekend. So now I was learning about real history. We had some really great teachers that were telling us what really happened historically, and how minorities didn't really have the opportunities that we had. Opportunities based on white privilege and being redshirted in communities and not being able to get good housing or good wages, with people like my father who were in charge and wouldn't hire anybody but their kind. So I had a good buddy, and so I came home one weekend, and I said, hey, next weekend, I've got this really good friend of mine. His name's John Crudup, and I'd like to bring him home for the weekend, because he's from Walla Walla, Washington, which is way in the far corner. He doesn't get to see his family, and I'd like to just bring him home for a nice family dinner. And they went, oh, and by the way, he's studying to be a brain surgeon. Oh, fantastic. I could just see them going, okay, Ed, you're finally coming up in the world. You might get a better job than we thought you might get. Well, so fantastic, be great. And I said, oh, okay, well, I'll bring him over next weekend, when we come back on the ferry on Friday night. There's one thing, I know it's probably not a big deal, but he's a black kid, person of color, and then my dad just started shaking his head, and he went, he can't come. I said, why? Are you racist? No, we're not racist. We you know, we're in a nice white community, and the neighbors bring someone like that into the neighborhood. It's just going to be too tense, you know, and you know, they do steal things a lot of times. You know, I'm sure he's fine. You know, he sounds like he's going to be a good kid and all that kind of stuff. It's just not going to work. So then I look at my mom, my loving mom that talked about how to respect people for who they are and not be judgmental of anybody and spread love. And I said, come on, Mom, help me out here. This is wrong. And she just shook her head and said, I'm sorry, I agree with your father. That was the dagger in the heart, because I knew what my father was like. I didn't expect my mother to do that. I did find out later on it was more, she has to respect what the man of the house wants to do. So, of course, I stormed out of the house, a few FUs and things like that. Didn't come back for a while. And then I went on to college and I took really great classes, decided I wanted to be a teacher. And I learned about, I was going to be a preschool teacher, and I learned about anti-bias curriculum. And when I taught preschool for 7 years while I was getting my master's degree, and I looked at the environment when I came into this preschool as a college lab school, all the dolls were white, all the pictures were white. There's no people with disabilities portrayed, no people of different ethnic groups, the puzzles, everything. So I was armed with all that information, and we made this exciting environment. And this was a Pacifico College. It's a really great program. And the book's called Anti-Bias Curriculum. It's fantastic. Well, I knew, you know, I wasn't going to change my father's opinion, but the last 3 years of his life, I cared for him while he had Alzheimer's. And I asked him one time, he just lost his short-term memory, or short-term, his long-term memory was fine. And I said, you know what, do you still believe all these things, you know, about different ethnic groups? And he went, you know, I do. And it's just the way I taught. It was the way I was raised. So for myself, I've learned over the years to interact with as many people as I can from everywhere around the world, different ethnic groups, different socioeconomic classes. And one thing that we did look at in college was our own biases. And that was very revealing. So it's a work in progress. I'm sure it's a work in progress for many of us to get to know the other people and who they are and what they value and what they bring to the table, and learn to respect other people. And it's a process, and I'm still processing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. I'm going to borrow a line from a comedian that I particularly like. And he said, people say immigrants are taking our jobs. People say Mexicans are lazy. Make up your mind, guys, one or the other. They can't be both. I thought about that. And you know, that's one of the best lines. Because culture is deep down and you can shove it down. My grandmother did shove it down, make peace, and then something happens and snap. It comes at and it bites you. So face it, embrace it, experience other people, and that's the only way to lose it and change it. Well, I'd like to introduce our first poet, but let me tell you a little bit about Andy Laufer. Not the things that you know. I think of Andy as an old clock. You know, the kind where you could go in and do the, well, Andy is the old clock of the Sacramento Storytellers Guild. He makes all the pieces run, and when something goes wrong, who do we call? Andy to fix it. And that's Andy. Please welcome Andy Lawford.
Thanks, Joyce. Thank you, Joyce. This month is Native American Heritage Month.
Hmm.
And in honor of that, I made some acorn cookies, acorn graham crackers. They're over on the table over there. Give them a try. There's no chocolate in them, and there's no coffee in them. They look like there is, but there isn't. They're pretty interesting and pretty good. So give them a try. So, what did we just go through in this country? Elections. I mean, going through this period of elections was almost as bad as going through COVID,
Yeah.
right? It was pretty dramatic. And you know how many poems there were about COVID. So here goes. This one's called Believe It. I believed it could never happen again. A countrywide epidemic of anger and spitefulness. Zealots losing trust of all our institutions. Ghosting tactics and campaigns, bringing reality into doubt. Leadership promoting lies as truth, bolstered by artificial intelligence. Manipulating hopeful masses, convincing them they are right. Their collective disdain makes them strong, overwhelming. They believe they are on the winning team. Consequences for winners and losers have been severe. Fervent believers refuse to remember the evidentiary past. We, the naive bystander, incredulous. Our brethren not recognizing the danger of their position, the possibility of a future without compassion. The risks of enslavement and death grow with their choices. Our separateness is a reality based on an illusion. Complacency and arrogance widen the divide. Reasonable solutions only possible with mutual respect. Actively listen to find a commonality. Peace and prosperity for all among them. Believe we can do things to make our lives better. Seek a path or various paths we can navigate together. Hey, thanks. So this next one is Life is Never a Waste of Time. From bad decisions, we glean wisdom. The opportunity for observation and reflection comes with quiet time. Even boredom has its benefits, motivating us to explore our surroundings. Excitement raises our spirits and the drive for more. New beginnings spur vigor to experience new adventures. Sadness strengthens our resolve to mitigate difficulties. Joy lets us see the light of the world. Humility always follows gratitude. Compassion leads to understanding and forgiveness when necessary. Anger moves us to action or shunts us toward bad decisions. It is because you are alive that we can perceive these things. The emotions and sensations we experience, thoughts and reactions they may elicit, are exclusive to our existence. A gift we unwrap with every passing moment, exposed to an infinite number of possibilities. Each a miracle bestowed on us to realize. And though what we sense may be circular in nature, regardless of what we experience, it is our tangible connection to the universe. Life is never a waste of time.
Yeah. Wow.
This one's called Keep Moving. My mind moves in one direction, then another, changing instantaneously, the flight of a hummingbird. Momentum non-existent with a weightless thought. Its movement as varied as the possibilities. Driven toward understanding, anticipating what must be done, planning always at the fore, satisfaction the ultimate payout for doing. Options are greater with the doing. Move to whatever comes next. Avoid unwelcome burdens. Shift in the direction that feels right. Relaxation a must to keep moving, or exhaustion be your bane. Beware the addiction of inaction. It will sink your mind and body into numbing stagnation. Thrive and act to experience life. Explore the world. Seek new adventures. Live. To do nothing will diminish you and lead you to sickness and death. Okay, wise words. We read the words of wise poets, their perspectives so often healthy and pleasing, their minds an open chasm into which all things are accepted, often providing positive reflections that lighten our hearts. They remind us to approach everything as if it were a blessing. The struggles they must have had seem non-existent. Their experiences, the wages of searching and suffering, allow them, in retrospect, to see value where others don't. Reflection and practice over time leads to perfection. Elusive to most because we humans are imperfect, but wisdom poets share for the ages help us to think and find a better path. Okay, now this one is kind of a fun one. It's called Tears for the Athletes. Now, some of you know that I'm a big crybaby when it comes to watching TV or movies or whatever. And watching the Olympics this last summer, I mean, these guys get up on the stand and I'm, welling tears and things. So this one's called Tear for the Athletes. Now, that's 6 stanzas, and you can see there's 3 on this side and 3 on this side. I'm going to read this 2 ways. One is all one right after another, and the other is crosswise. And I want you to vote for which one you like the best. Okay. So first I'm going to do them one after the other, and then I'll do them side by side. So number 1, Tears for the Athletes. Olympic competition lends magnitude to being the best. Grandiose elation on reaching the podium. Respect by other athletes assured. Many factors align for success: family support and sponsorship, the need to overcome physical challenges, the resolve to remain consistent. We shed joyful tears for the athletes, a connection with the competitor, their fight to persist laudable, especially with their success. A tradition since ancient times, almost impossible to achieve, pride and victory swells, dedication worth admiring. Years of preparation spent, love and money essential, nurture health and healing religiously, to battle with conviction. Empathy and relief surge through us, our emotions conceived through theirs, our unmet challenges meaningless. We win too. Okay, that's number 1. Now let's go for number 2. Tears for the Athletes. Olympic competition, a tradition since ancient times, lends magnitude to being the best, almost impossible to achieve. Grandiose elation on reaching the podium, pride in victory swells, respect by other athletes assured, dedication worth admiring. Many factors align for success: years of preparation spent, family support and sponsorship, love and money essential. The need to overcome physical challenges, nurture health and healing religiously, to resolve, to remain consistent, to battle with confidence. We shed joyful tears for the athletes, empathy and relief surge through us. A connection with the competitor, our emotions conceived through theirs. Their fight to persist laudable, our unmet challenges meaningless, especially with their success. We win too. So, number 1 or number 2? Number 2, 2, 2, 2. Looks like number 2. Got it. Okay, I'll make a note of that. Thank you very much. No ulterior motives in youth. We visited with our friends just to be with them. It was reason enough, no ulterior motives. Walking together, arms over shoulders, talking about everything, being buddies, sharing the day, the joy of living. No judgments by either of us, innocent bliss. A time when everything was true. Then others observed our interaction. Boys don't walk together like that, they told us. Our questioning eyes on their faces, we trusted them. Abutted by injustice, a lesson learned, bolstering bias, our innocence shaken, our perspective changed, a genuine interaction spoiled forever.
Wow.
Okay, my last one. I'm going to leave you with a kiss. It's called a goodnight kiss. It is little more than a peck, but offers a lifetime of meaning. Nothing sensual about the act. Neither of us anticipates more from it. Love-making no longer at the fore. We still need assurances. This brief consideration is enough. It satisfies our yearning to be wanted. We still fit together so well. Our lips touching quell the demonic doubt. The goodnight kiss acknowledges our lives well lived. This tender intimacy, a moment of surety, softening our hearts, inviting peaceful sleep. Secure in the knowledge our love endures, our desire to share another day certain.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. And he can fix things too. Where's your favorite gathering? One of my favorite gatherings is around a campfire with playing a guitar and hitting the wrong chords. Nobody cares. Telling stories, creating stories from old and new memories, the warmth of the fire, the cold and outer area. Nothing is greater. Where's your favorite gathering place? Our next teller is not a Sacramento storyteller. He comes from the Sacramento the Capital Storytellers. And he, for me, is our liaison. Therefore, you have two groups, different styles that create wonderful stories for the Sacramento area. Please welcome John Butterbirch. John? And I practice. That's going on.
Thank you so much, Joyce, for having me. And Andy, I'm a proud fellow crybaby. So Joyce said that the theme was gatherings, and this is a story about a detour on the way to a gathering. So I have never been so exasperated, mesmerized, and inspired by a sandwich in my life. So it's the late 80s. My mom tells me that her college nursing class is having a big 30th reunion in San Francisco. She's really excited to go, but with the long drive and the bridge tolls and the parking and the chaos, it's all just overwhelming. But that's not really the whole story. Mom has had a rough couple of decades dealing with serious mental illness, multiple sclerosis, and divorce. She lives alone in a small apartment at the back of a nondescript complex, and she's tired. Life has been really hard on her, and she deserves a break. So I say, Mom, I'll drive you. So the big day comes and we get on the road, and it's kind of a long drive, so we decide to stop for lunch. And we roll up to a Subway sandwich shop. And as we walk in, we are greeted by Nicole, an astoundingly chipper young woman in her late teens who will be our Subway sandwich artist for the day. I want you to know that term is trademarked. And I also want you to know that I have not received any compensation from the Subway Sandwich Corporation for this story. So Mom walks up and proceeds to give Nicole the slowest, fussiest, pickiest, most confusing and convoluted sandwich order in the history of sandwich orders, because Mom wants what Mom wants, the perfect sandwich. Now, initially, I am exasperated thinking, just let the girl do her job, as my mom gives her expert advice on how best to place the tomatoes and points out all the places where the mayo hasn't quite reached the edge of the bread. But honestly, I'm embarrassed by her. I just wish she would act more normal. I wish she would be more normal, whatever I think normal is at the time. So I bark at her, Mom, just let her make the sandwich. But Nicole says, no, it's quite all right. I've got this. And then Nicole proceeds to conduct a master class in customer service, patience, and compassion for an audience of one, my mom. I have never in my life enjoyed watching someone perform a mundane task more so than in this moment. It is both touching and heartwarming in a way that is hard to explain when you consider I'm talking about an effing Subway sandwich. She treats my mom like royalty. So when it's my turn, I give my order and I thank her profusely, trying not to come across as weird, but I'm sure I came across as weird because I was touched by her kindness. She showed my mom patience and compassion when I couldn't. So we finish our sandwiches and I go up and I thank her again and I ask her if her supervisor's present because I want to pass on the praise. And she says, no, it's just a fellow coworker. Well, we go on about our way and we have a beautiful reunion. But come Monday, all I can think about is Nicole and the sandwich. So I tracked down a customer feedback number for Subway, and eventually I'm able to leave a message singing Nicole's praises. A couple days later, I get a call from Steve in corporate, and he says that he thanks me for passing on this really positive feedback. It got bumped up to a regional office because they really like to share this kind of information. And he says, but there's something else that I wanted to share with you. For reasons that I can't get into, we were preparing to fire Nicole.
Wow.
But based on your feedback gave her such confidence and such encouragement, and it provided us with such a great teachable moment that we've decided to give her a second chance. Wow. Now, I was really hoping that Steve was going to kick down with some free sandwich coupons, but Nicole's second chance is even better. And I have thought about this experience and these people, Steve, Nicole, and of course, my mom, who was just a few years younger than me. I've thought about this for years, but only very recently did it dawn on me. I could be anyone in this story, in a position to give or in a place of need. For me, this story is such a beautiful reminder to, whenever possible, share praise, show compassion, and take a risk on second chances. Because even if you don't get a free sandwich out of the deal, it will come back to you in beautiful and surprising ways. Thank you.
Nice. There we go, John.
Well, thank you, John. I never made a sandwich. We have a second John. Now this John belongs to the Sacramento Storytellers. He's told with us a couple times, and like everyone else that I know pretty well, I'm going to read this. John has joined us a few times in the last year. He has also with the Capital Storytellers, the senior residence, and a couple of times at the Berkeley Moth. This is the first since he took the stage at an open mic in Londonderry, Vermont, outside of Woodstock last month. He wants us to think about what we don't see and rely on every day. Please welcome our traveling storyteller, John Patterson.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Capital Storytelling. I've been wrestling with this story for decades, and I do pretty good at keeping it under 20 minutes. That's my limit, right? So I have to dial the time machine back in time. I use images on the time machine instead of dates. It goes quicker. Yeah, past when an actor was governor of California. There we go. When the first actor was governor of California, that's where we're. So I'm driving my car. It's a little bumpy, gravelly road. And I find this one old building all by itself. It says 8972 above the door. It's like about 9 feet tall and a decrepit, small, one-story stucco building under great big power poles, about a half a mile down the big open field. Back in the day, it was an open field, I don't know about now, from the Cow Palace in San Francisco. And I'm going there to fill out an application. It's an application for PG&E. And I've been working a lot in elementary school, high school, and college. I have this master's degree program I want to work on, but doing both is wearing me out. So I'm looking for a good job. So I go in, I turn, it's like 4 lines to fill out. The last one's my phone number. Turn it in. It's just slightly drizzly. It's Tuesday. Guy looks up, puffs on his cigar, says, "We'll let you know." Go out in the car and drive home. Friday afternoon, about 3:30, I get a call. "Patterson?" "Yeah." "This is Mac." "Okay." "I'm the guy you gave the application to." "Oh, yeah, you got the job.
Oh, God.
Be at Pearson Ellis at 7:30. "Oh, just so you know, this isn't the office part of PG&E, you're in general construction." "Okay, don't be late." So, friend of mine, I told him about the application. He called me on Saturday and said he got the job too. So we carpool and we get down there, downtown San Francisco, about 20 minutes early. Oh, I'm supposed to start my timer. And find a place to park a couple blocks away from Pearson Ellis. We're looking for a trailer, and this trailer is sitting on 2 wheels, and they said it's painted brown. It'll be the only trailer there, and we're there. And there's one other guy there. We're there at 7:15, and then a bunch of other guys show up, and then a PG&E old battered brown pickup shows up. 2 big guys get out, really big guys, big shoulders, bigger down below, and unlock the door to the trailer and go in. It's just lightly raining. Everybody's looking at each other. They're inside. About 5 minutes later, my watch says it's 7:32. They say, "Get in here." So we all huddle in, and they're smoking big cigars. There's no windows. There's no air conditioning.
Oh, God.
And there's almost 24 fully grown men from 25 to about 50 years old in there. And well, maybe 20 to 50. Forgot about me. Anyway, they're sitting there and they're all bumping each other. It is really tight. A lot of strange noises being made that we're all used to and accustomed to, but didn't want to deal with. And we're sitting there for a few minutes, and then I hear, "Mac, let's see who's here." He said, "Well, I got 20 names." He starts calling them. Well, 19 are there. And then in the front row, 4 guys that said here, and they kind of stuck out. They had brand new boots on, brand new Wrangler jeans, brand new plaid flannel shirts on, and they sat right in the front row. And he said, "Okay, you guys, we're going to get you busy in a minute. You're a mechanical equipment operator. Your classification is C, so that's MEOC. Now, this job isn't for everybody. Nobody does this job because this is the kind of person they want to be. The only people who do this job are the people who want to pay the rent, buy groceries, and keep their cars running. So we'll know about some of you by the end of the day. Anybody here go to college?" All 4 guys in the front row with the new shirts go, "I got the right answer." He says, "Well, we got to give you 2 days. That's what the boss says." "Okay, let's go." We get out. There's 3 boxes in the back of the pickup. We got to open them up. The college guys grab 2, and they're trying to break the cardboard open. Me with my buck knife, and another guy walks over and he picks out a shiny silver thing, flicks it, and he has his knife, and we cut the box open. 6 brand new shovels in it. That's our equipment. We open the other 2 boxes, throw the boxes in the back of the truck. Other trucks start showing up, and Mac and Lou tell which people off the list to get in the trucks. Finally, there's just Brad and I. Says, "Okay, get in the pickup." So Brad goes over to open the side door of the pickup. And I knew Lou and Mac were still there with their cigars. And Lou yells out, "Thank you." And he freezes. Lou gets in the truck. He said, "The cardboard will make it better for you in the back, guys." So we get in the back of the pickup. It's only lightly raining. Drive to this other site, get out at the corner. He says, "Okay, see those sawhorses, white sawhorses on the steel plate there in the parking space? Move those to where to the sidewalk, lean them against the cyclone fence. Tractor's coming, you hook up the chain on the hook in the middle. Now, what you're gonna do, listen carefully. You're going to set it down around the corner. You walk with it. You don't let it swing. God damn it. You do not get under it. You do not use your fingers. You just use the heels of your palm to guide it. And you work together and look at each other so it doesn't swing around. It'll be too heavy for you to do anything with. We do that. We park it. Go back around the corner. Flat, wet sand in this hole. Apparently it's a hole, I'm guessing, in the concrete, about 6 feet wide and about 8 feet long. Mac goes, the welder didn't get here yesterday, so we had to fill it. We need the sand taken out. The welder's coming this afternoon.
Oh, God.
So, wet sand's a little heavy. We start digging. We have our little brown sack lunch and our thermos leaned up against the cyclone fence. We start shoveling for about an hour and I go, Brad. He goes, yeah. It's funny when I remember. I said, do you remember driving past trenches in San Francisco and other places? He goes, yeah. And I said, how deep were those trenches? I don't know. I never saw the bottom. I said, yeah, that pipe could be down there. Let's not put the sand right around the edges because when we're down 4 or 5 feet, that's going to be tall. Let's move it further back. So we do that. Guy comes at 11. We have our lunch break for 25 minutes. He said, you're doing okay. Couple more feet to go. Get back in after lunch, shovel, shovel, shovel. He comes back at 2. Yeah, you found the pipe. If you kept going, I knew you were going to. I didn't think I had to tell you where it was. It's down there. Anyway, it's about a foot across. He said, okay, I'm going to go call the welder up there at the far end, dig out about another 8 inches so he can lay under it. We get down and do that. He comes back. He said, yeah, I found a payphone. The welder can't make it right now, maybe another half hour. So take a break. So we had some coffee. He leaves at 25 after. He goes and makes another call, comes back. The welder can't make it today. The tractor's on its way. It's going to push the sand back in the hole. Be careful. You've got to smooth it out. There's brooms in the back. You got to clean up the sidewalk and the street. Can't leave any mess out here, guys. And then be very careful moving that plate, putting it back in place and putting the sawhorses on. We went back to where we started in the morning. Now there's only 17 of us and only 3 college guys. Guy whispers to me, Mac, he goes, you know, we'll be lucky if by the end of the week there's 10 or 12 of you. I'm thinking, probably says that to everybody because the next sentence is, if they come back tomorrow, we're going to pay them for the full week. And I'm thinking, he's whispering that to everybody, just making their jobs simpler and enticing people who don't want to be here. Don't have to be here. We'll reward you to leave early. Anyway, you had 6 months probation on that job. No sick time, just a few paid holidays. You couldn't be late. There was no place to call to tell them that you weren't going to be there. If you didn't show, you were done. Anyway, I got a full 5 months and 3 weeks in at PG&E. And it was a good job. After about 3 weeks, I worked up to mechanical equipment operator B, that's jackhammer operator, and got to work downtown. Now, way downtown was by the Embarcadero, before they had the Embarcadero Towers. And that wasn't a place many people went during the day who were dressed like us. I mean, back then at that time, that was a different kind of place. They still unloaded ships down there and trains went through there, etc. And we worked on one pillbox, I won't forget. And they were called, not pillboxes, I don't know where I got that word from. They were power boxes, transfer boxes underneath the road. So we built the biggest, according to our foreman, 3 times bigger than any transfer box he'd ever seen before at the foot of Market Street. And they were using 4x4s to hold up this wood ceiling that was the bottom of the cement form for pouring the cement in this big concrete box under Market Street. And I remember the first time I went down the ladder and was working under there, was a little nerve-wracking when the cable cars went overhead. Muni buses, not so bad, but the cable cars, you could see the 4x4s just vibrate a little bit. But anyway, what we needed to do is there was a few side holes in the new concrete that had to be broken out. So this was at the time when they were redeveloping the foot of Market Street. And one day I went up at top after work and saw this garage across the street, and it had a sign on it. It said last day, and it's an underground parking garage. So I walked over and I go, why does a garage have a last day? Oh, and it said the building's coming down. And I said, I see stuff in the windows up there, and you got a clock on the wall. He goes, yeah, well, whatever's left in there, it's just all coming down. It's all garbage after 5 o'clock today. They lock it up and demolish it. And I said, well, can I buy that clock? It's an 18-inch General Electric old-fashioned clock. And I gave him $2 for it. He said, sure, it's not mine, but I'll take your $2 and you can have the clock. So that's where they were building the first Embarcadero Tower. I felt like I was always in on the ground floor of that action there. And whenever I go around town or look at things like that, I always remember all the things we can do now. A lot of them are based on the fact that other people didn't do certain jobs because that's the kind of person they were. They did those jobs because they needed to do those kinds of jobs to survive. And so I think every road, every bridge, every building, we can pay a little respect to the people who actually did that work. Thank you.
Okay, where's John? John, come up and tell us about next month.
I guess it's intermission because I'm being asked to tell you about next month. So next month it's on Saturday, December 21st. The theme is presence. And hopefully we'll have a very jolly holiday festivity type of program. And then in addition, I want to announce that I am also the host for February. And the theme for February is Library Lovers Month /books. So if you have a story that you would like to tell for February, you can also talk to me about that.
Ed, would you like to tell us something?
Sure. So I'll pass this around. Tomorrow at the Davis Oddfellows Lodge, 7 storytellers, some from here, are going to hold a concert. Everyone's got up to 10 minutes. And it's upstairs in the Davis Oddfellows Lodge on 2nd Street. It's an amazing facility. There's a great stage there. It's a fun place to go. The lodge we're the largest lodge in the country, and I think possibly the world. We've got 29 pledges. We're gonna have over 400 people in our lodge, and we have 73 committees. And I've started the theater storytelling committee, where we go to live theater and then we have storytelling events. So this is one of them. It's also in celebration of Telebration, which is an international event that we had here a couple weeks ago, and it's done all over the world. So please come to that tomorrow, 4:15 to 5:30. I'll just pass this around and take a picture of it, or I've got a couple copies if you're interested. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to point out
Pass it back.
that we have a donation basket over on the table because we need money for our festival. We're certainly running in the red. And there are also membership forms there for 2025. I've sent all the members one online, but you can pick one up in person and you can fill it out. I was going to tell you to give it to Karen, but Karen's sick, so Terry is the one to give it to. Now it's time for you to gather together for some nibbles and giggles and exchanges with new and renewed friendships. Please, we will call you back for 4 more performers. Thing is always good. Gathering is always good. I would like to tell you about our next poet, Jennifer O'Neill Pickering. Now, I've known Joanne for a couple years, and I always am glad to see her. She has such wonderful, loving, flowing words. She's a great poet. Please put your hands together and welcome Jennifer.
Nice introduction. Now I have to live up to it.
Oh, you always do. Always fantastic.
Such wonderful stories. So I'm gonna, my poetry are kind of like little mini stories. The first one. It's called Thanksgiving Morning in Tahoe Park, which is a park in Sacramento. Thanksgiving morning at Tahoe Park. I'm grateful for the morning swags of mist draped over the neighborhood, the gold and crimson rugs, sycamores and liquid ambers roll out on grand occasions. For the dogs cheer before each walk. Old legs made strong because of them. Striding to the park, rectangle of green, a crushed stone path. For the neighbors' small talk and nod, sharing of their dogs and mine. For John, seated in his walker, a furry friend in his lap. And the conversations of crows. For the name they've given me, woman in a hat. And my dog, small one who chases squirrels. For the hawk's return, nesting in the tallest tree. This sudden clap of leaves upon blue grass. And the daisy's eyes opened by the last good rain. Thank you. I usually have these little bit organized. So, my twin brother passed away on October 21st. And I wrote this poem long before he passed away. I call it Jack and Jill. Wind and still, grandma's jeans, duets and soloist, yellow and violet, father and mother, quick and slow, love and hate, double mint gum, sun and moon, tea and honey, dreamer and schemer, hammer and nail, tongue and cheek, sour and sweet, hide and seek, different smiles, same eyes blue, roots and limbs, salt and pepper, stem and bloom, green and red, sister and brother, sugar and cream, heart and soul, first best friends, odd and even, dark and light, shoes and socks, double trouble, orange and blue, spoon and womb, stars and sky, perfect pair, rider and carpenter, painter and gambler, rock and rain, lens and rifle, yin and yang, one for all, Jack and Jill, Buck and Jenny. Doing a little memoir. That was for my brother. This is for my sister that I never knew. Older sister. If you had been my big sister, would you have taken me for ice cream, used me as a front to meet a boyfriend at a matinee, teach me to paint my lips properly as they pouted like Marilyn Monroe's, to jitterbug after school with Dave Clark and American Bandstand? Would we shared a room? Would you have protected me from my stepbrother? I know I would have followed you around like a puppy in my poodle skirt and my Mary Janes. Been compared to you by our teachers as an example of an excellent student. You would have been mother's measuring stick for what a daughter could be. I would have had a crush on your boyfriend. You would have been third mother mirror. We would favor each other in our looks and have the same smile. I would never know you except in daydreams. Your sacrifice, the reason mother kept trying. And I'm sorry to see that the dog has left, but lessons from my dog. I'm taking lessons from my dog to be cheerful, smile, forgive, look forward to a brisk walk. Greet those I love with a wiggle and a sloppy kisses. Turn over a new leaf every day. Curl up in the most comfortable chair. Store away abundance and dig them up in lean times. Focus on what is important. Speak without first being spoken to. And leap again, even if what you are after is out of reach. Thank you.
Thank you. And didn't I tell you you would have lovely flowing words? If you're a gardener, this time of year gives me a memory that I cherish and I have to share it. We grew a big garden, my husband and I, and he wanted to share. And we live on a small country road, and the joggers go by, lots of joggers. So he would make little bags of vegetables, and he would stand out, and as the joggers go by, he would hand them a bag. I love the expressions on their faces. He didn't make them heavy because he didn't know how far they had to jog. But that memory cheers me up. That's a gathering whether they wanted it or not. You gotta do something with all that zucchini. Our next storyteller is new to the guild, new to storytelling, but she's astonishing. An accomplished storyteller. She's active. She created those beautiful programs that you're looking at. She does everything for us. She even has her own business, plus she runs art school on the side. I don't know where she finds the time. Please welcome Suzanne Lecourt with a new story.
Thank you, Joyce. I appreciate that, and thanks for all your attention. I also want to welcome my Vanna White and Lewis. I bought some props. I made these special for this story, and I want to start with my name. It is Suzanne, like shoes on. And the reason I emphasize that is that people get it Suzanne, Susie, Suzanne, or Susan. It doesn't matter. But again, if I say Suzanne like shoes on, people remember. And the reason that my feet have sneakers is because I haven't had a pedicure in a little while. Okay, so as somebody's mentioned, I am an artist. Is that what the picture is? Just making sure. And I painted pictures. I did one before COVID, or actually right at the beginning, and I did it of 19 people with 19 different masks. It ended up going to Dignity Hospital, and later they had to move it to Mercy Medical Group because there were too many people gathered around it. And I ended up getting written up in 104 newspapers, featured on TV, and I even made Yahoo Business, which I have no idea how that happened, but I did. And so I also want to tell you that I grew up broke. And when I say broke, we only had meat one day a week on Sundays. Now, let's just say that school lunches are usually subpar. My mom was such a terrible cook that I looked forward to school lunches. I couldn't wait. And I would drink the milk, even if it was sour. I would just enjoy those burgers that weren't crunchy. I thought, this is the absolute best food I've ever had. Now, there's one thing that my mom could make. Wait, no, there's yeah, one more. Thank you. The next one. She could make deep fried, flour dipped, salt and peppered pork chops. And this was my favorite dish. Now, we were only allowed one pork chop. There were 4 of us in our immediate family, and my little pesky brother, and my mom and my dad. So again, she would make 4 pork chops, and on Sunday, we all got to take one. So for my, go ahead, my 13th birthday was coming up, and my mom said, you can invite as many people as you want. She had this huge platter of pork chops. My eyes got big as saucers. I was so excited, and I was no dummy. How many people do you think I invited? 0, zilch, nada. That meant I had more pork chops for me. So I was so excited about having these pork chops, and go ahead and yeah. I'm sorry, I'm just like, there we go. My mom, she picked up the telephone, took that long cord, pulled out her Rolodex, started going through it. I'm gonna get people to help me eat these pork chops. I was so upset. And she called and she called and she called, and no one could make it that day. But finally, she found some people from Bear Air Force Base, Cheryl Kropp, her little bratty son, who is 3, and her superiorly inferior 12-year-old boy named Lauren Kropp. Well, we were having these wonderful pork chops, and it was exciting. And because he was a guest, can you believe he got to go first? Oh my gosh, but I was right there. I was right second, and he took 2 pork chops. Oh, well, then I took 2. And everyone took their pork chop or 2 around the table. My mom taking the one and kind of glaring at everybody and giving her raised eyebrows. Well, when it came back to Lauren, he took 2 more. Then the race was on. I had 2 more. And even though my stomach was full, my mom had said, you can't be an artist because artists starve. So at 5 years old, I started eating double because I knew I was an artist, like I knew I was a girl. And so I ate the pork chops till my mom picked up the platter, took them in the kitchen, slammed on the little mobile home table in the kitchen. It was definitely not an island, quarter like a what do they call that? A laminate, little mini peeling at the corners, gold colored island. Matched the phone. So after this dinner, my mom said, you guys go and play outside. Well, Lauren Kropp and I had to go outside, but it was like 100 degrees. I was born in June. So out in the middle of a rice field where I'm a mosquito magnet. In fact, I'm not fat, I'm just swollen from as a childhood. And I had a little fan in the motorhome. So I said, this is going to be a safe place. So we went in the motorhome. I turned it on full blast. And Lauren pulled out a newspaper, but it was actually a Rayleigh's paper bag, and turned it upside down for what reason, I don't know, and started to pretend to smoke a pipe. Well, what did I do? I went to the kitchen and I started making pork chops, imaginary pork chops. And then all of a sudden, he twirled me around, kind of like something out of a 50s movie, dipped me. I was shocked. Go ahead. And then he did the most disgusting thing. He stuck his tongue in my mouth. It was so gross. I did not know that was even a thing. And he assured me that, I pushed him away and he assured me, no, this is how adults kiss. My parents kiss this way all the time. And I'm like, well, my parents never kissed that way. Nobody else I know. I go to church all the time. Nobody's ever seen, I've not seen that. But he assured me that, no, this is how kids kiss. So I wrapped my brain around it. I decided that, again, he's only 12 and I'm 13. How could I let that happen? So with all the courage I can muster, go ahead. A little jackrabbit tongue went in and out of my mouth so fast, but it was not as bad as the first kiss. And plus, go ahead. He tasted like a pork chop. And that's it. Thank you. I had no idea when it was
I will never look at a pork chop. Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you, Ed. Good job.
Thank you, Ed.
It is time to introduce our next poet. She's a creator, a mother, a grandmother, an auntie, a friend, a partner, a lover, an Aquarius, a seeker of truth, and with all the wonderful qualities, she is also a fantastic poet. I don't see her. Oh, there she is. I'm sorry I missed you. I was worried. Excuse my panic. Please welcome the wonderful poet, Aisha Jones. Please arise.
Good afternoon, everybody. Am I okay where I am?
No, you need the microphone.
Oh, that would help. Yes. Okay, is this better now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I want to, how do I put this, to honor or dedicate this poem, this session to my cat sister woman who joined the ancestors 3 days ago. Yes, so we get the poem here. Sister woman. That was her name, Sister Woman. I'm sorry. It's here somewhere. I'll come back to it. It ain't easy being right all the time. Despite my extensive years of music education, apprenticeships with piano grandmasters, who have a singular ability to interpret emotions deeper than the composer's intentions, it ain't easy being right all the time. My finger dexterity creates unheard of polyrhythms and ragtime syncopations. Erotic dreams are authentic melodies genres. Yet, occasionally, an off note is sounded or struck. Only music connoisseurs, devoted purists, lifelong teacher professors, or haughty critics notice. It ain't easy being right all the time. However, being wrong all the time ain't easy either. Despite being dropped in ocean depths, rusted by sea salt, spun violently in hurricane waves, batteries exploded in me, acid spills on my face and hands, frozen in Arctic tundras, scorched by 125-degree desert sun, battered by chimpanzees, crystal face broken, arms twisted, left for dead. Yet twice a day, I am not wrong. I am a broken clock. This poem, Habiba, is really, only ask you to clap at the end, okay? Very end.
Okay.
Habiba, you'll see it's a sign of our times. Habiba, inquisitive reader, creative homemaker, concerned citizen, walks quickly on tree-covered street, carries freshly made pistachio muffins, sees a newly painted sign on her neighbor's white picket fence. Curb your dog. Immigrants go home. Habiba hesitates, adjusts her hijab, ponders if she is still welcome at the neighborhood watch meeting, struggles to open the gate latch.
Oh, okay.
Hypnotically, we glide across glistening polished floors, roam over notes, hug harmonies, slide trombone wails, upright bass plunks low funk, kicks reach high soprano, hips rhyme new rhythms. Neon lights flash red, yellow, purple. We dip dive, jig jive, high five our blues away. Okay, this is a nod to Joyce Clemmer. Anybody know Joyce Clemmer? 1886, 1918. One of his famous poem is Trees. I think that I shall never see a poem as lovely as a tree. Well, I don't think I'll ever see a poem as beautiful as an autumn day. Her aura of chill, sudden nudge of raindrops, harvest moon, embraces, alerts. Autumn's imperial crimson, gold amber, and earth brown leaves, felled by her relentless breezes, ebb and flow upon river streams. American poet, 1886. This poem was written a while ago, but it's a whole memory of things. Constitutional right to vote. Then bomb churches, midnight riders. Now purge voting rolls, unavailable poll centers. Then poll taxes, property ownership, literacy test. Now, government issued picture ID required. Poll centers closed or consolidated. Provisional ballots reduced early voting. Today, voter registration ballots or machines are mangled by nooses coated with blood. Kerosene tree limbs litter the floor. Another nod. A nod to John Donne. I am also involved in humanity. Each man and each woman's life enriches me. Mothers, Mothers embrace just-borns with I love bonds, naked heartbeat to heartbeat cuddles, envision 2 a.m. feedings, wobbly first steps, gap teeth smiles, goodbye waves at kindergarten doors. Black mothers tightly wrap daughters and sons in bulletproof blankets, soft quilts woven, blessed, sanctified by ancestral spirits and future hopes. Black mothers know tomorrow is not always a day away. It is a broken winged bird. Flight is never promised. Langston, and that was inspired, Langston Hughes' Dreams. Silence. Silence is loud, like a jet plane's accent or a train whistle at night. The space before the first kiss, the seconds between I am leaving and the door slam, the seconds holding a hand of a loved one and a final goodbye, the terror of absence screams, unshed tears, the time between moon wax and sun wane. Silence is a solved mystery, answer to an unanswered prayer, fulfilled dreams. Am I doing okay, time Mike? I'm okay, okay. Sister woman, fluffy tan brown, long hair cat, serenely stretches out on top the gray brick balcony wall. A balmy late night, early morning wind gently ruffles her fur. She closes her eyes. There. One more. Now, this is another nod to somebody we all know, Miss Odom, Joyce Odom, to write the poem. That was her poem to write. Mine is to live the poem and not the words. Kaleidoscopic dreams, black and white dawns, lies, a merciful truth, hold hands as they drunk, meet at crossroads, hail midnight trains. Pink roses draped by baby's breath, fragile flowers fill an empty bassinet. Smiles are tears, promises to be broken, outstretched hands sometimes miss, hailstones, unmelted rain, strike emerging blossoms. Dance slow and close with midnight silhouettes in fields of four-leaf clovers, amidst jitterbugging elves. Thank you.
Thank you, Elisa. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce our final storyteller. Now, this person is creative. He tells a good tall tale. And let me tell you, don't ever buy the Brooklyn Bridge from him. Please welcome David Tarvin.
I do have a bridge for sale. You meet me out front afterwards. Well, like she said, my name indeed is Dave, and I am the one, the only, the original, because there are imposters, coffee bar cowboy. And years ago, many years ago, I was up in Plumas County in Indian Valley, riding my iron horse through the winding mountains all day and into the night. Late at night, I wound up on Moonlight Ridge. And as I sat there surveying the valley below, I wrote a poem. And this is it. We gathered around, all the boys, on Saturday morning. We watched the glowing screen, black and white, mesmerized. I was envious. I longed to be a part of the story. A cowboy, a character that lived beyond my fears. Well, I carried that resentment for a long time because all my heroes were movie cowboys, TV cowboys. I mean, I grew up in Southern California as a boy. I actually saw them every once in a while. Heck, I saw John Wayne in Macy's one day. He was coming down the escalator and I was going up. I just couldn't believe it. And so that resentment grew and grew and grew through the years. And then one day I could take it no longer. I was 16, strong, not as big as I am now, but I was strong. I was fairly smart, and I took off and I was going to make that dream come true. And I found myself about a week later sitting on a hard wooden board atop of this wooden wagon next to this crusty, rusty old man who everybody just called him the cook. And I had been hired as his helper. Now, nobody told me what I was really going to do. All I knew was I'm this guy, they called him Cookie. I'm going to be his helper. And so we're riding on this buckboard thing and we're going through the New Mexican prairie just outside the Gila National Forest. And it was beautiful, tall grass. And we're riding along, and all of a sudden, I hear this rustling sound. And I look off to the side and I see something running through the grass. It looks like these sticks that are like just above the grass line. And Cookie, he looks over at me and he kind of smiles. And we go a little farther and it happens again. And this time, whatever it was came pretty close to that horse because it started, getting nervous, which made me nervous. I never even grew up. I didn't know anything about horses. I thought that thing was going to take off. Well, before long, we make it to the Gila forest and we meet up with all these cowboys. And so we're sitting there and so I'm helping them and we set up like this camp thing. But it turns out all of these cowboys were waiting for us. Because all these cowboys engaged in this cattle drive with thousands of cattle are afraid. And they're waiting for this crusty, dusty, rusty old man. Because he was a jackalope wrangler. And I was his helper. Now, I didn't know what a jackalope was, but as we sat down, all gathered around that campfire, having that dinner that the rusty, dusty old man had made, they all told me stories about these jackalopes and how fearsome they were and how they were all afraid of them because the biggest thing about the jackalopes and cowboys is that when they're on a drive and the jackalopes come through the herd, with their antlers, they tickle the bellies of those cattle. And they don't like being tickled, so they take off and they stampede. Now, if you're a cowboy, you know the worst thing in the world is being in a stampede. And so they had come to this canyon, and there was these jackalopes in the canyon, and it was the worst time of the year because jackalopes have a mating season where they become extremely aggressive. So cowboys, they ain't going in there. They had to call the old wrangler out. And so these old cowboys, as we were gathered around that fire, they're telling me all these stories, and they told me this stuff about, jackalopes do have some weaknesses, even though they are fierce. They have some weaknesses, and one of them is rot gut whiskey. The second is Vienna sausages. They love those things. They just gobble them up. And that's what we use to set the traps, me and the old man, to catch these jackalopes. And so he and I, after, we had dinner and all that kind of stuff, we went out into the woods there and we set these traps up. And then we had our little space where we were going to wait for those jackalopes. Well, he falls asleep. I mean, he was a rusty, dusty old man. And it's just me. Well, about 2 o'clock in the morning, I fell asleep. But about 3 o'clock, I woke up. I heard one of the traps going off, and I jumped up and I ran over to the trap where the big bowl of that whiskey was. It was empty, and the trap was sprung. Well, I'm standing there going, it's dark, I'm in the forest, what do I do? And then all of a sudden, I hear another trap go off, and I run over to there, deeper into the forest. And there's the other trap, and all those Vienna sausages, gone. Now, I was kind of stumped. I didn't know what to do, but we did leave out one more trap. It was more complicated. And I heard it go off. I ran over there. I whipped out my flashlight, and there he was caught in the trap. This huge, I mean, even for a jackalope, which they are pretty big, this one was huge with a full set of antlers. He was caught in this big net. Well, he was stuck in that net, so I just watched him for a while, and that's where the smart part comes in. I thought, I'll let him wear himself out, which he started to do, but soon he started to break free from that netting. And I had to do something. So I rushed him, a bum's rush. I grabbed him by the antlers and I threw him on his back and I landed right on top of him and I put him in a half Nelson. And I almost had him. We were wrestling around. And then all of a sudden, I felt his body shift. He rolled over and he put his two back paws right there on my stomach. And he kicked just like a horse or some old mule or something. Next thing you know, I'm flying through the air, 20 feet away, landing on my butt. Well, I get up and I look over, shine my flashlight, and there's that jackalope just staring at me. And he got a bit, I could have swore he was smiling at me. And then he made this sound. It turns out they make this weird sound. They go, hoo-hoo! And that's what he did. And then he just turned around and he hopped off. I wasn't about to chase him. So I went back to the camp. The sun was coming up by then. I thought, well, I'll just make the coffee and stuff. And so I made coffee and I started breakfast. Rusty, dusty old man shows up. Cowboys wake up. And we're all gathered around the fire again. And I tell them my sad story about the jackalope, right? And they all got a good laugh. They thought that was pretty darn funny. And then the old man, he turns to me and he says, Dave, you know what? I got to tell you, you made the coffee last night and you made the coffee this morning and you did a wonderful job. And he said, but you know what? You are never, ever, ever going to be a jackalope wrangler, but you would be a great barista. And that's how I became the coffee bar cowboy.
Well, our time of gathering has come to an end, and I hope this program made you comfortable, made you feel better, and I'm hoping you leave just feeling a little better than when you came in. And I want you to circle the third Saturday of every month because we gather here 11 months, 1 month out of the year. We gather for the Sacramento Valley Storytelling Festival. Don't miss it. It's going to be great. Thank you.